This is the story of something that happened a few years ago, something I still think about when the nights get too quiet, and the shadows in my room feel a little too still. This is the story of what happened in a basement. An old, forgotten basement, and I swear to you, every word of it is true. It all started when my cousin Daniel moved into this old house in a small town outside of Michigan. He had just gotten a new job and needed a place quickly, so when he found this house listed for cheap, he didn't ask too many questions. That was his first mistake. The house looked normal enough from the outside. 2 stories, white siding, a little cracked porch, and a big backyard. But from the first time I visited him, I knew something felt wrong. It was too quiet inside. You know that feeling when a room is so silent, it feels like it's holding its breath? That's what the whole house felt like it was watching us. Daniel brushed it off. He said the house was old, probably just creaking from the wind or settling in the ground. But then there was the basement. The door to the basement was in the hallway, near the kitchen. It was painted the same color as the walls, so at first glance you might not even notice it. But once you did, you couldn't stop noticing it. It had 4 locks. Not just a regular knob and deadbolt. 4 heavy-duty sliding locks. 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, and 2 in the middle. I asked Daniel why there were so many locks. He laughed it off and said, maybe the previous owner kept expensive wine down there or something. But I didn't laugh. Because when we first opened that door, just to peek, it was like the air changed. You could feel cold rising up from the basement, like breathing in something that had been buried a long time. The light switch didn't work. There was a single bulb hanging from the ceiling down there, barely glowing. I saw steep wooden stairs going down, the kind that creaked, even when no one was on them. The walls were made of old stone and they were damp. The smell hit me first. Mold, yes, but something else too. Something metallic, like rust or blood. I told him to close the door. I didn't want to go down there. Daniel promised he wouldn't either, but that promise didn't last long. 2 weeks later, he called me in the middle of the night. His voice was shaking. He said, "Something's wrong. I think someone's in the basement." I rushed over. It was around 1:30 in the morning, pitch black outside. When I arrived, the house was dark except for the kitchen light. Daniel was sitting at the table, pale, eyes wide. He told me he'd been hearing noises. Scratching. Sometimes whispering. At first, he thought it was just mice or old pipes. But that night, the whispering got louder. He said he could hear words. Not English, though. Something he didn't understand. And the locks. One of them was undone. He swore he had locked all 4 that morning. I checked the door. 3 locks were still in place, but the bottom one was hanging open. I told him we should call someone. The police, maybe. But he said no, that they'd think he was crazy. Instead, he wanted to go down there. I told him absolutely not, but you know Daniel. Stubborn as hell. He grabbed a flashlight, handed me a kitchen knife, and started undoing the rest of the locks. The door opened slowly. The cold hit us again. The same foul smell, stronger this time. My skin crawled, and the hair on my arms stood up. We stepped down the stairs, one at a time. Every step groaned under our weight. The flashlight flickered. When we reached the bottom, it took a moment for my eyes to adjust. There was nothing unusual at first. Just old boxes, some broken furniture, and a rusted water heater. But then we noticed the wall. The far wall had symbols carved into it. Not just scratched with a nail or something. They were deep, like someone had used a knife or chisel. Circles, triangles, lines, some kind of ritual markings. And then we saw the corner. There was something in the shadows. A figure, small, crouched. I thought it was a child at first, curled up. But then it moved. The way it moved, too fast, too wrong. It scurried across the wall like a spider, limbs bending the wrong way. The flashlight hit its face for a split second. I'll never forget it. Pale skin, eyes too big, black and empty, no nose, just 2 holes. And its mouth, it didn't have lips, just a row of long, thin teeth that stretched from one side to the other. We ran. Daniel tripped on the stairs. I had to pull him up. The door slammed shut behind us, and we heard it. Scratching again, this time louder, angrier. We locked all 4 bolts, then pushed the kitchen table in front of the door. Neither of us slept that night. The next morning, we went back down. This time with a camera, baseball bats, and pure fear. But the basement was empty. The markings were still there, but the corner was bare. No creature. No sign of anything living. Except one thing, Daniel's flashlight, the one he dropped, was still there. The lens was cracked, and there were long scratches on the handle, like claw marks. Daniel moved out 3 days later, left most of his things behind. He said he kept hearing it, scratching behind the walls, breathing in the vents. He didn't want to know what it was or why it was there. Later, we did some digging. Found out the house had belonged to a man named Richard Gray, a recluse, said to be part of some cult back in the 50s. People in town whispered about screams. Heard from the house, but nothing was ever proven. Gray disappeared one night. Just vanished. The house sat empty for years after that. No one stayed long. Now it's boarded up. Sometimes I drive by, just to see if it's still there. It is. Still silent. Still holding its breath. And sometimes, only sometimes, I swear I see movement in the basement window. A flash of pale skin, or the glint of too many teeth. That's the story I had to tell you. I don't expect you to believe me. But if you ever see a basement door with too many locks, don't open it. Don't listen to the sounds. And whatever you do, never go down there. This is the story of something that happened to my friend Marcus. I'm going to tell you exactly how he told it to me, and believe me when I say this. It's not just another haunted house story. This one gets under your skin. It stays with you. Every time I pass a basement door now, I remember his voice trembling on the phone, saying just 2 words. It's awake. Marcus moved into a duplex on the edge of town last fall. It was one of those older homes divided into 2 rental units. The top floor was his, and the bottom was empty. He got a great deal on it. Too good, really. And when I joked that it was probably haunted, he laughed and said, "I don't believe in that crap." At first, everything seemed fine. He liked the place. Quiet neighbors, decent kitchen, a big old fireplace he never used. But there was a door in the hallway, small, metal, and rusted around the handle. It was padlocked when he moved in. The landlord told him it was just storage space under the house and not to worry about it. But Marcus being Marcus, he worried about it. He said the door gave him a weird feeling, like someone was standing on the other side, waiting. He didn't say anything to the landlord, though. Just left it alone. Until it started making noise. It began as a soft thudding sound, maybe twice a week. Like something heavy shifting around, beneath the floor. He thought it might be old pipes or animals, but the timing was always strange. Always around 2:17 in the morning. Exact to the minute. Then came the whispering. He said it started as a murmur, low, almost like wind, but soon it grew sharper, clearer, still muffled, still behind that basement door. But he could hear it saying his name. At first he thought he was dreaming. He'd get up, check the hallway, stand in front of the door, and the house would be dead quiet. But the feeling wouldn't leave, that pressure, like the air was thicker around the door. Like something was pressing up against it from the other side. One night, he called me. "I think something's under the house," he said. "Something alive." I told him to call animal control or get out of there. But Marcus was stubborn. He wanted proof. He wanted answers. So he did something dumb. He cut the lock. I warned him. I begged him not to, but he said he needed to know what was down there. He waited until daylight, grabbed his flashlight and a crowbar, and opened the door. He described it as more of a crawl space than a full basement. The ceiling was low, and the walls were lined with rotting insulation. But it stretched farther than it should have. The house wasn't that big, but the space beneath it went on and on. He went in. The flashlight caught pieces of old furniture, a child's broken tricycle, piles of newspapers from decades ago. The deeper he went, the more unnatural it felt. The silence wasn't right. Not even the sound of his own footsteps echoed. Then he saw it. Scratches in the dirt floor. Deep lines, like claw marks. Drag marks, too. Like something had been pulled. Across the ground. Or someone. He turned around, and the door was gone. He swore to me, absolutely swore, that he walked in a straight line. And yet when he turned around, the entrance was no longer behind him, just more darkness. The flashlight flickered, the air turned cold, and then he heard the breathing, not his own, not some echo. This was something close, something wet and heavy. He turned the flashlight in every direction, shaking, calling out. And then, in the corner of the beam, something moved. He only saw a piece of it. Long, pale arms stretched too, far, fingernails like broken glass. The thing was crawling, not walking. Crawling on the ceiling. It looked at him. He didn't describe its face. He couldn't. Said it was like looking into a nightmare that had shape but no reason. He ran. No sense of direction. Just ran through the dark until somehow he slammed into a wall and found the door again. He burst out, slammed it shut, and locked it with a chain. Then he moved a bookshelf in front of it and never touched it again. But it didn't stop there. The next few weeks were worse. Something changed in Marcus. He lost weight, couldn't sleep. Said he heard scratching every night now, not just at the door, inside the walls. He started dreaming of dirt and tunnels and long white arms reaching out of the dark, and always the same voice whispering his name. Marcus. Marcus. One night, he called me in a panic. It's in the house. I drove over faster than I ever had before. When I got there, the front door was wide open. The place was dark, completely silent. I walked in calling his name, but he didn't answer. The hallway felt colder than the rest of the house. The bookshelf that covered the basement door was pushed aside. The chain was broken. I didn't want to go down there, but I had to. I grabbed his baseball bat from the closet and a flashlight, then opened the basement door. The stairs were cracked and uneven, and the smell hit me like a wall. Damp earth, rot. I stepped carefully, each foot heavier than the last. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. At the bottom I called out, "Marcus?" No answer. I walked deeper into the basement, past the furniture, past the rusted bike, and then I saw him, standing perfectly still, staring at the wall. Just standing there. I called his name again, but he didn't move. When I reached him, he finally spoke, in a voice that didn't sound like his. It showed me everything. I grabbed his arm, tried to pull him back, but he didn't move. His skin was ice cold. His eyes were wrong, hollow, like something else was looking out of them. Then I heard it behind me. The thing. Crawling. Fast. I turned around and the light flickered again, just in time to catch a glimpse. The same pale limbs. The same clicking sound like bone against bone. It was dragging itself forward, and its mouth was open far too wide. I pulled Marcus with every bit of strength I had. Somehow we made it out. We burned the door shut, poured concrete over the entrance and sealed it for good. Marcus moved out a week later, and I never went back. But he still hears it. Even now, in a new apartment, in a new city, he says it finds him in his dreams. Sometimes he wakes up with dirt under his nails. Sometimes he hears it breathing in his closet. I believe him. And I'll tell you this. If you ever hear whispering from the basement, don't open the door. Don't look for where it's coming from, because once you see it, really see it, it never lets you go. This is the story of something that happened to my Aunt Clara. I'm going to tell you everything she told me, just like she said it. I didn't believe it at first, but after what I saw for myself, I don't laugh at those things anymore. This is the basement horror story, and it's real. So real that I still get chills when I think about it. Clara was always the brave one in the family, lived alone, traveled a lot, did everything on her own. But after her husband passed, she decided to move to the countryside. She wanted quiet, peace. She found this old Victorian house on the edge of a small town in upstate New York. It was beautiful but a little run down. Big wraparound porch, tall windows, and a basement. One of those old stone ones you have to enter through a heavy wooden door in the floor. That basement. That's where the trouble started. The house had been empty for years. She was told the last owner just abandoned it, left everything behind. Some said she'd gone mad. Others said she disappeared without a trace. Clara thought it was all small town gossip. She got the house for cheap and moved in right away. For the first few days, everything was fine. She fixed the upstairs rooms, painted the walls, even started a garden in the back. But she told me the house always felt cold. Not just temperature cold, wrong cold. Like something was soaking the warmth out of the walls. Then the noises started. She thought it was the wind at first. A low hum, like a distant engine running underground. But it wasn't constant. It only happened at night. Always after 1 a.m. She'd lie in bed and hear it coming from the floor. Not loud. Just enough to keep her awake. She tried to ignore it. Until one night, the sound changed. It wasn't humming anymore. It was whispering. She couldn't make out words at first, just soft murmurs. But the longer she listened, the more she was sure. Someone was talking down there, whispering right beneath her bed. And then one night, she heard her name. Clara. She got out of bed, heart racing, and went straight to the basement door in the hallway floor. It had a thick metal ring as a handle, and when she touched it, it was ice cold. She knelt down, pressed her ear to the wood. Silence. She stayed like that, for a long time, holding her breath. But the silence was worse than the whispering. It felt heavy. Like someone on the other side of the door was doing the same thing, listening. She didn't open it that night, but she started to notice other things. The basement door would be slightly ajar in the morning, even though she never opened it. Things in the kitchen would be moved. Her cat, Milo, stopped going near the hallway. He'd hiss at the door, fur raised, and then run and hide under the couch for hours. One morning she found muddy footprints on the floor. Small, bare feet, like a child's. But she didn't have kids, no visitors, no explanation. She told herself it had to be some animal, raccoon maybe, or a squatter who snuck in. But she couldn't bring herself to go down there and check, not alone. So she called me. When I got there, I could feel it. I mean, right when I stepped inside. The air was heavy, thick with something that didn't feel right. Clara looked exhausted. She hadn't been sleeping. She told me everything. About the voices, the footprints, the cold door. I offered to go down into the basement. She didn't want me to. But I insisted. We opened the door together. It creaked like something out of an old movie. The steps leading down were stone, cracked and covered in dust. I took a flashlight and started down. The smell hit me first, like wet earth and something rotting. The beam of my flashlight barely cut through the darkness, but I saw old shelves lining the walls, broken furniture, and what looked like an old furnace. I was halfway down when I heard it. A soft click, 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 like fingernails tapping on stone. I turned the light toward the corner, and I swear to you, something moved. Quick, crawling, but not like an animal. More like something trying to stay just outside the light. I called up to Clara. "There's something down here." She didn't answer. When I turned back toward the stairs, she was gone. The door had closed. I rushed back up, but it wouldn't open. I pounded, screamed her name, but all I could hear was my own voice echoing in the stone. Then the whispering started again. Not one voice. Many, all around me, soft and cruel. "She's ours now. We've waited. Come below." I don't remember how long I was down there. Could have been an hour. Could have been 5. Time didn't feel real anymore. But at some point, the door opened. Clara stood at the top, pale as a sheet. Her eyes were wide. "You were gone for hours," she said, "but I wasn't. Not in my mind." I checked my phone. Only 23 minutes had passed since I went down. After that, things got worse. Clara started seeing things, reflections in mirrors that didn't match her movements. Her cat disappeared. Just gone one day. She started sleepwalking. I'd find her in the hallway, standing over the basement door, whispering back. She didn't remember doing it. I begged her to leave. I told her to come stay with me. But she said no. Said the house wouldn't let her leave now. The last time I saw her was 2 weeks later. She called me middle of the night, whispering into the phone. It's open. It came up. I saw it. It wants me to follow. I drove straight there, but I was too late. The front door was open. The house was dead silent. I found her phone in the hallway, and the basement door, wide open. A trail of muddy footprints led down the stairs. I waited for hours, called the police. They searched the house, searched the woods, even drained the old well out back. They never found her. But the footprints, they weren't all hers. Some were smaller, bare, like a child's. Now the house is empty again. For sale. Cheap, of course. Sometimes, I drive past it just to look, and once, just once, I thought I saw something in the basement window. Just a flash, a pale face, and a hand, reaching up from the dark. That's the story I had to tell you. So if you ever move into an old house and find a locked basement door, leave it alone. Because some things buried underground don't stay asleep forever. Some things whisper, and some things wait. This is the story of something that happened to a guy I used to work with. His name was Darren. Quiet guy, didn't talk much, but one night after a few drinks, he told me this story. I thought he was joking at first, just trying to mess with me. But by the time he finished, his hands were shaking, and he wouldn't even look at the floor. So I listened. You should too. This is the basement horror story, and once you hear it, you'll never look at basements the same again. Darren had just gotten out of a bad breakup, needed space. So when he found this small rental house on the edge of town, dirt cheap, no neighbors nearby, he grabbed it without thinking twice. The place was old, 1950s style, kind of isolated, but cozy. Hardwood floors, creaky stairs, and a heavy metal door in the kitchen that led down to the basement. The landlord told him to keep that door shut. Said there were structural issues, mold maybe. Dangerous to go down there. Darren didn't care. He wasn't the kind of guy to poke around. He was looking for peace, and for the first week he had it. Then the scratching started. It began small. Like a mouse, maybe. Just a soft sound in the night, coming from behind the basement door. Nothing loud, but always around the same time, 3:12 a.m. He checked the walls for animals, set traps. Nothing. Every night the sound would return. Scrape, scratch, stop. Like whatever it was, it knew he was listening. A week later, it wasn't just scratching. It became a knock. 1, 2, 3. Slow, hollow knocks from beneath the door. That's when Darren told the landlord. But the guy just said, "Don't open it, I'm warning you." Darren pushed for more, but the landlord wouldn't budge. Just gave him this strange look, like he wanted to say something but couldn't. So Darren tried to ignore it. He started, sleeping with headphones on, played music loud enough to drown out the knocking. But he said he could feel it through the floor, like every knock was echoing inside his bones. One night, he snapped. He waited up until 3:12. Right on time. The knocking started. He grabbed a flashlight, yanked open the basement door, and stood at the top of the stairs. Dark. Silent. The air coming up from the basement was cold and thick, smelled like rust and wet stone. He called out, "Hello?" Nothing. So he went. Down. He told me he didn't even know why. Curiosity maybe, or anger. But step by step, he went deeper into the dark. The flashlight barely helped. The basement was bigger than he expected. Long concrete walls, puddles on the floor, and an old furnace in the far corner. Then he saw the door. It was in the back, nearly hidden in shadow. Wooden, rotted, chained shut. And behind it, something moved. He described the sound like wet cloth dragging across the floor. Slow, heavy breathing, like something sleeping just behind the door. He raised the flashlight, and in that moment, something knocked from the other side. Once, twice, 3 times. He ran, sprinted up the stairs and slammed the basement door shut. He nailed it closed, covered it with furniture, slept with a bat under his pillow after that. But whatever he woke down there, it didn't stay behind the door. It started whispering. At first he thought it was the wind, but it came from the vents, the drains, the cracks in the floorboards, and it knew his name. "Darren, let me out. It's so dark." Every night the voices got louder. They didn't come from outside the house anymore. They were inside, all around him. He said it was like the basement wasn't under the house anymore. It was spreading. Every shadow, every corner felt deeper than it should be, and then things started disappearing. His phone, his watch, keys, gone. No sign of a break-in. One morning, he woke up to find muddy footprints on the ceiling. Not the floor, the ceiling. That's when he called me. I didn't know him well back then, but I could hear the fear in his voice. He sounded broken. I didn't believe in that kind of stuff, but I agreed to visit just to calm him down. When I got there, the house felt wrong. I don't even know how to explain it. Cold? Sure, but more than that. Still, like time had stopped. The hallway lights flickered when I stepped inside. Darren looked like hell. Eyes sunken, pale, twitchy. He showed me the basement door, still nailed shut, dresser shoved in front of it. But I heard it, knocking. Slow, steady, like it knew we were there. I told him we needed to leave. He said he couldn't. He'd tried. His car wouldn't start. Phone dead. He walked into town once and came back the same way he left, like the roads just looped back to the house. That night, I stayed. With him. We both sat in the living room, baseball bats in hand. No lights. He said they didn't help anymore. Just candles. At exactly 3:12 a.m., the basement door shook. Not just a knock. Slammed like something was throwing itself against it. The floorboards rattled. The air went ice cold. We backed into the kitchen, and that's when we heard it. Footsteps. Not from the basement. From the hallway upstairs. Slow, dragging footsteps moving room to room. We didn't move. Just stood there, frozen. I whispered, "Is anyone else here?" He shook his head. The footsteps stopped above us, right over the basement door. Then came the whisper, "Found you." The power went out. The house groaned. Actually groaned like it was alive. The sound of something crawling through the walls, the floor, the ceiling all at once. I grabbed Darren and we ran out the back door. Into the woods. We didn't stop until the sun came up. That morning we returned with the police. The basement door, still nailed shut. But inside the basement, they found something. Behind the chain door, buried beneath the dirt, was a hole. A pit. Endless, black, and too deep to measure. The air that came out of it made the officers gag. One of them passed out. They called it a sinkhole, but it wasn't. Not really. Darren moved out that day. The house still stands, empty. No one will buy it. Some say it's cursed. Others say it was never a house at all. Just a cover for something older. Something waiting. I've never gone back, but sometimes I hear a knock on my apartment wall in the middle of the night. 3 knocks. Slow. Hollow. I don't answer. And if you ever hear it, scratching, whispering, knocking from the basement, don't check. Don't go down. Because once you see what's behind that door, it never lets you forget. It never lets you go. And it always knows your name. This is the story of something that happened to my childhood friend, Liam. I hadn't heard from him in almost 10 years. And then one day, out of nowhere, he called me. He sounded different, shaky, like he hadn't slept in days. He said he needed to talk, needed to tell someone what happened before he lost his mind completely. I met him that night at a small diner, and what he told me, well, I haven't slept properly since. This is the basement horror story. Liam had inherited a house from his uncle, an old man he barely knew. The house was located in a tiny, forgotten town in Maine. It was one of those places that don't show up on GPS and has a population of less than 50. The house itself looked like it had come straight out of a horror film. Weathered wood siding, leaning slightly to one side, and a crooked porch with rotted steps. But Liam needed a place to start over, so he moved in. From the moment he stepped inside, he said the air felt wrong. Stale, like something had been locked inside for too long. The floors creaked even when he wasn't moving, and the light bulbs flickered constantly. But what bothered him most was the door in the kitchen floor. The basement door. It was made of thick old wood, with a rusted iron handle and a heavy bolt. The first time he opened it, the smell hit him like a wave. Damp earth, mold, and something else. Something metallic, like blood. He shone his flashlight down and saw only stone steps disappearing into blackness. He didn't go down, just shut the door and told himself he'd check it later. But that night, around 2 a.m., he woke up to a sound. It was faint at first, like someone whispering beneath the floorboards. Then came footsteps, slow and dragging, moving below him in the exact shape of the house, as if someone, or something, was walking through the basement, following the rooms above. He thought maybe an animal had gotten in. So the next day, he went down there. He said it felt like walking into a freezer. The stone walls were damp, and water dripped from the ceiling in slow, steady drops. There were old tools on the shelves, some broken furniture, and a workbench covered in a sheet. But what drew his eye was the far wall, because it wasn't a wall at all. It was a door, a second one. Unlike the one upstairs, this one was built into the stone itself, with no handle and symbols carved into the rock around it. Symbols Liam didn't recognize. It pulsed with cold, like it was breathing. He backed away, went upstairs, and bolted the kitchen door shut. But that night, the whispering came again. Louder. And now he could understand parts of it. Open the door. Let us in. We're waiting. Liam tried to ignore it. He blasted music, wore earplugs to sleep. But every night, the voices came. And slowly he started to change. He told me he was losing time. Hours would pass, and he wouldn't remember what he'd done. He'd wake up standing over the basement door, hand on the bolt. Once, he found himself downstairs, standing in front of that strange stone door with a knife in his hand. He hadn't brought a knife down there. He stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. The house was getting colder, darker, like the sun couldn't reach it anymore. The windows fogged from the inside. Shadows moved in corners where there should have been none. And then he saw it. One night, he went down to the basement again. He didn't know why. He said it felt like he was being pulled. The stone door was open. There was a tunnel behind it. Rough, jagged stone walls leading deep underground. And from the darkness, something crawled out. Liam said it was human in shape, but wrong. Too tall, bones too thin, eyes too wide and black like oil. Its skin looked stretched, like it had been pressed against its bones for too long. And its mouth never stopped moving. Even when it wasn't speaking, it moved. Like it was always whispering something, even if no sound came out. He ran, bolted the door, nailed it shut. But when he got back upstairs, the basement door, the one in the kitchen, was wide open, and at the top of the stairs, a muddy handprint. Small, child-sized. But there were no children, no visitors, just Liam. That's when he decided to leave, packed a bag, got in his car, started driving. But every road he took brought him back to the house. He drove for hours and still ended up parked in front of it. Like the town had vanished and only the house was left. Then, things got worse. The voices weren't just at night anymore. They followed him in daylight, whispered from inside cupboards, from behind mirrors, from drains. The walls started to bleed, a thick black sludge that oozed out and vanished before he could show anyone. His reflection stopped matching him. It smiled when he didn't. It blinked out of sync. He went to the local sheriff, told him everything. The sheriff didn't laugh, just looked at him with sad eyes and said, "You should have stayed out of the basement. That place was sealed for a reason." Liam begged him to help, to destroy it, burn it down. The sheriff just said, "You think you're the first?" That's when Liam realized This had happened before, and would happen again. The house wasn't haunted. It was hungry. It called people, drew them in, broke them slowly, and then opened the door so they could come through. Whatever was behind that stone door, it didn't belong in this world. And now, Liam said, it was too late. The door was open. The house wasn't trying to trap him anymore. It was trying to let something out. That was the last time I saw him. A week later, I heard he went missing. The house was found empty. Police wouldn't comment. I tried to visit, but the road leading to the town was blocked. Map apps couldn't find it anymore. But sometimes, I dream about it. A house in the woods with a door in the floor, and something on the other side knocking, scratching, whispering my name. So if you ever find yourself in an old house, and there's a basement door the owner tells you not to open, don't open it. Don't go near it. Don't even listen. Because some doors don't lead to basements, some doors lead to them. And once you open it, they don't go back.